I'm Tasha, and my childhood was spent in a simple two-bedroom home with my parents, Tom and Sarah, and my younger sister, Ella. Mom worked as a cashier at the local store, while Dad bounced between various construction gigs. They did the best they could, but there was always more month than money. I clearly remember turning 16. While most kids were planning sweet 16 parties or dreaming of their first cars, I was applying for jobs at every nearby restaurant. When I told my parents about it, they barely reacted. Mom said, "That's good, we could use the extra cash." And Dad just kept reading his paper without acknowledging me. I landed a job at Mario's that same day. Pete, the manager, wasn't the friendliest, but he was fair. "You start tomorrow," he told me. "Be here at 4 o'clock sharp." That first paycheck felt like a small victory, but it didn't last. Mom was waiting at home with her hand out. "We need to pay the electric bill," she said, taking most of it. There was barely enough left for school supplies, and when I asked for more, I was scolded for wanting to keep any money for myself. Ella quickly figured out that I had money now, and she wasted no time exploiting it. "Tasha, buy me this," became her daily request. Whether it was candy, toys, or clothes, if I said no, she'd go to Mom or Dad, and they'd guilt me into giving in. My life became a blur of school, work, and homework. I mastered balancing trays of pasta while memorizing chemistry formulas and worked hard to maintain good grades. I managed to save a little here and there, stashing it in a coffee can labeled college fund hidden in my closet. But each time I saved, my family found a way to drain it. By my senior year, I'd been promoted to head waitress at Mario's. I kept the raise a secret, hoping to use it for college. But of course, my family found out. Mom started planning renovations, Dad suddenly needed new tools for work, and Ella's requests for toys doubled. My paycheck, it seemed, was meant to be theirs. When I got accepted into the state community college, I couldn't believe it. I'd worked so hard, staying up late after shifts and writing papers during breaks, all while saving up for the application fees despite my family's constant demands. When the acceptance letter arrived, Mom and Dad's reaction was lukewarm. "That's nice, honey," Mom said, but quickly followed with, "You'll still be working, right? We need your help with bills." I had no choice but to agree. Over the years, it had been made clear that my role as the financial provider was non-negotiable. So I juggled work and classes, taking early morning courses so I could work the afternoons and evenings at Mario's. Those first 2 years were a blur of textbooks, caffeine, and endless hours on my feet. Pete was understanding about my schedule, but it was exhausting. The problem with working and studying simultaneously is that neither gets your full attention. There were nights I'd fall asleep with my face in a textbook, only to be woken up by Mom asking for money for Ella's new school supplies. By then, my sister had entered high school and her needs seemed to multiply. In my third year, everything fell apart. Dad lost his construction job when the company went under, and Mom's hours were cut at the store. Then, the bombshell. They'd taken out a massive loan for home repairs, something they hadn't bothered to tell me about. Now they couldn't make the payments. "We need your help, Tasha," Dad said one night, spreading bills across the kitchen table. "We could lose the house." I looked at the numbers, my stomach dropping. The only way to help was to drop out of college and work full-time. My parents didn't even try to hide their relief at the thought of me stepping up. So I withdrew from my classes and took every shift I could at Mario's. I worked days, evenings, and even washed dishes late at night after the restaurant closed. It was draining, but I kept telling myself it was temporary. I'd save up, return to school at night, and finish my degree. 2 years later, when I had saved enough to think about re-enrolling, Ella hit me with her own surprise. "I got accepted to college," she announced one evening. Then glancing at our parents, she turned to me with those pleading eyes I knew all too well and added, "We can't afford the tuition." Before Mom even spoke, I knew what was coming. "Tasha, honey, you're doing so well at the restaurant, and Ella really needs this opportunity." Just like that, my savings, my chance to return to school, vanished. I handed over my college fund with a forced smile as Ella hugged me, and Mom and Dad praised me for being such a good sister. After years of living at home and pouring my money into my family's needs, I finally made the decision to move out. I found a small one-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Mom tried to make me feel guilty. Why spend money on rent when you can live here? She asked, conveniently forgetting how much of my paycheck had been taken over the years. But I stood firm. I needed space for myself. The apartment was small but peaceful. For the first time in years, I could come home after work and not be greeted by demands for money or help with bills. Then Ella graduated from college, the degree I had funded with my own deferred dreams. I thought, finally, things would change. My sister had her degree, my parents' loan was almost paid off, and I could focus on my own education again. I should have known better. Tasha, we need to talk, Mom said one evening during a family dinner, using that tone I knew too well. Your sister's getting married, Ella said, showing off her engagement ring. A diamond that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Isn't it wonderful? Jake proposed last week. That's great, I replied, already anticipating the next part. The thing is, Dad added, weddings are expensive, and Jake's family is well off. We need to make sure everything's up to their standards. And just like that, my savings were gone again. I spent the next 6 months working double shifts to help pay for Ella's dream wedding. Flowers, dress, venue, catering. The bills kept piling up, and somehow I was expected to cover most of it. After the wedding, I made a decision. I started saving again, but this time I kept it to myself. I had learned my lesson over the years. Mentioning savings always led to an emergency that only my money could fix. Like clockwork, every few months my parents would call with an urgent problem. The roof leaked, the car broke down, the basement flooded. Every time they belittled my education, telling me it was insignificant. They had no idea I was already enrolled in the state college correspondence program. I attended online classes, worked in study breaks, and often stayed up late writing papers. I paid for each semester out of my pocket, hiding the receipts in my apartment where they could never find them. It was tough. There were nights I barely slept, juggling work and studying. But the secret felt empowering. It was something for me alone, something they couldn't diminish or take away. When I finally finished my last class and earned my diploma, I kept it to myself. I hid it in my closet, out of sight. For once, I had accomplished something that wasn't sacrificed for someone else's benefit. As Christmas approached, I was ready to share my success. I had 2 major secrets, my college degree and my promotion to manager at El Chateau, the city's top restaurant. I'd worked my way up from waiting tables at Mario's to managing a place where reservations took months. I wrapped my diploma in silver paper with a red bow, practicing in my head how I'd tell my family. I imagined their surprised faces, maybe even a little pride. After all these years of them seeing my restaurant job as temporary, I was about to show them how far I'd come. They'll have to be proud now, I reassured myself, adjusting the bow for the 100th time. Mom and Dad will finally see I've made something of myself. And Ella, maybe she'll finally stop looking down on me. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a week before Christmas when I saw Mom's name on my phone. I answered, eager to share my news during the holiday dinner. Hi, Mom, I said, smiling. I was just thinking about Christmas. Oh, about that, she interrupted, her voice distant. We're not having Christmas at our house this year. Ella's hosting. My smile faltered, but I quickly recovered. That's fine. What time should I? Actually, you don't need to come, she cut me off. It's better if you don't come this year. What, Mom? What do you mean? It's Christmas. I'm family. Click. She hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone in shock. My mother had just uninvited me to Christmas, no explanation. My hands shook as I called Ella. Something didn't feel right, so I started recording the call. Hello? Ella's voice was cold, not the sweet tone she used when asking for favors. Ella, what's going on? Mom just told me I'm not invited to Christmas. Oh, she sighed dramatically. I asked them to tell you. I guess they were too nice about it. Tell me what exactly. Look, Tasha, this Christmas isn't going to be like our usual family gatherings. I've invited some really important people, Jake's business associates, my college friends, some of our more successful relatives. Everyone coming has made something of themselves. My throat tightened. And I haven't. Let's be honest, she snickered, venom in her voice. You couldn't even finish college. You're still waiting tables and washing dishes at that little restaurant. It would be too awkward introducing you to everyone. All my guests have degrees, successful careers. It would be embarrassing to explain my waitress sister who didn't graduate. I gripped my phone, my diploma taunting me from across the room. You're such a loser, Ella sneered. Always have been, always will be. Do you know how humiliating it is to have a sister like you? When people ask about my sister, I have to say you're a waitress. At your age? I sat frozen, the voice recorder capturing every cruel word. The diploma pulsed with each insult, but I let her continue. She was finally revealing her true self, and I wanted to make sure I recorded it all. I talked to Mom and Dad about the guest list, she went on. We're only inviting the family that's worth knowing. Aunt Margaret with her real estate empire. Uncle James who runs a tech company. The ones who've actually made something of themselves. And the rest of the family? She laughed mockingly. Those losers. Please, they're just like you, worthless. We don't need people like that at my party. It would ruin the whole vibe. The more she spoke, the more my anger swelled. This was the sister I'd given everything for. My education, my savings, my dreams. The sister who had taken from me, now calling me worthless. Although, she added sweetly, I could invite you to help. We do need someone to serve drinks after all. That's what you're good at, right? Know your place, Tasha. Some people serve, and others are meant to be served. Something inside me snapped, but instead of exploding, a calmness washed over me. I knew exactly what I had to do. Thanks for making everything clear, Ella, I said quietly and ended the call. I sat there, the recording playing back in my ear. Every word, every sneer, perfectly captured. I looked at my diploma again and knew exactly how this would unfold. I rewrapped the diploma, making sure the box was flawless. Then I dressed in my best outfit, the one I wore to management meetings at Al Chateau. No more waiting tables for me, but Ella didn't know that yet. The drive to her house took 20 minutes. As I pulled up, I saw luxury cars lining the street, Mercedes, even a couple of Porsches. Ella had definitely chosen her guests carefully. I approached her door, heart pounding but steps steady. Through the frosted glass, I saw the silhouettes of people, their shadows moving to classical music. I took a deep breath and rang the bell. Ella opened the door, holding a champagne glass, dressed in a designer gown that probably cost more than my rent. When she saw me, her face twisted with shock and anger. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, trying to block the doorway. "Get out. This is a private party." "A private party?" I raised my voice, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Is that how you treat your only sister on Christmas?" Heads turned. Our parents stood frozen pale. Ella's husband, Jake, looked on in confusion. "I'm Tasha, Ella's sister," I announced, stepping inside. The one she didn't want to invite because she didn't think I was, what was the word, worthy enough to be here. The room went silent. Ella's face drained of color. "Tasha, please," she whispered urgently. "Oh, but I brought gifts," I said brightly, holding up the box. "After all, isn't that what family does? We support each other, help each other, sacrifice for each other." I stepped into the middle of the room, the towering Christmas tree casting its light over everyone. My sister Ella had been concerned that I wouldn't fit in with these accomplished individuals. She worried about having to explain her embarrassing sister, the one who, in her words, couldn't even finish her degree. With a deliberate pause, I unwrapped my gift. The thing about assumptions is they're often far from the truth. I pulled out my diploma and held it up. Ella's expression was priceless. Mom gasped and Dad's jaw dropped. Not only had I graduated, but I was also managing El Chateau. A wave of shock swept through the room. Guests exchanged looks of recognition. The significance was clear. El Chateau wasn't just any restaurant, it was where celebrities dined, and getting a reservation was a feat in itself. "But hold on," I said, reaching into my bag, "there's one more surprise." My sister had shared quite a bit about the party and all of you lovely people. Luckily, I'd recorded it all. I held up my phone, hovering over the play button. Ella lunged forward. "Don't you dare." Too late. Her voice filled the room, loud and clear. "I've only invited people who can help us. These are connections who will help Jake's career, elevate our social standing." The recording kept playing, and Ella's haughty voice rang out once more. "I planned everything, even the table settings. The truly important ones, those who can actually do something for us, get the gold pattern plates. I spent a fortune on them." Her laugh echoed in the room. "The silver ones, for the maybe useful crowd. And the plain white plates, well, those are for the people we had to invite but who are essentially useless." The guests looked down at their plates, then exchanged stunned glances. The atmosphere shifted from confusion to realization, followed by anger. Jake's parents near the buffet stared at their white plates, their faces drained. "Our plates are white?" Jake's mother asked, her voice shaking. Jake stormed over, his face a deep shade of red. He confirmed the truth. His parents had been categorized as worthless by Ella. "Ella, what the hell is this?" he yelled. Mom and Dad stood frozen, their own white plates in hand, looking as if they had been slapped. Mom glanced between Ella and me, torn between her usual defense of Ella and the uncomfortable reality that she and Dad had been deemed worthless by their own daughter. Ella stood in the center of the room, pale as the plates. "I can explain. It's not what you think," she stammered. But her own words, captured on tape, left no room for explanation. The room erupted into chaos. Aunt Margaret, despite her gold-plated status, was the first to act. She slammed her plate down, food and all. "Is this how you see us? As networking tools?" She spat, grabbing her coat. "I've never been so insulted." Others followed suit, throwing their plates down, some tossing aside their gifts. Angry voices filled the room as guests stormed out. Some paused to snap pictures of their plates, documenting the humiliation. Jake's parents left silently, their dignity intact despite the disrespect. Jake followed them, not sparing a glance for Ella. Mom found her voice. "Ella, how could you?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Dad just stood there, staring at his white plate as though he were seeing it for the first time. I didn't need to say a word. My work was done. "Merry Christmas, everyone," I said softly, and walked out. At home, I uploaded the recording to my social media, tagging our relatives with a simple caption: "Here's why some of you weren't invited to Ella's Christmas party. Apparently, you're not important enough." The comments poured in quickly. "Aunt Susan, I can't believe this, after all we did for her wedding." "Uncle Tom, is this how Ella feels about her own family? Disgusting." "Cousin Rachel, now we see why we didn't get invites. Your sister's true nature is showing." Tasha, 6 months later, and Ella's social circle has crumbled. No one wants to be around her. I hear she's even absent at family gatherings. Her marriage is in trouble. Jake moved out 3 months ago, still struggling to get over how she humiliated his parents. "White plates," he reportedly said during an argument. "You gave my parents white plates and my boss gold ones." Who does that? Last I heard, they were in marriage counseling, but Jake's parents still won't speak to Ella. And honestly, I don't blame them. Mom and Dad called me the day after Christmas, filled with apologies. "We were wrong," Mom said, tears in her voice. "We took you for granted. We kept taking from you and never thought about the cost." Dad spoke too. "We're proud of you, your degree, your job. We should have been there for you, not always putting Ella first." Their words were nice, but they came too late. I told them I needed space to process. They still text me occasionally, checking in, but I'm not ready to let them back into my life. Ella tried calling once, probably to do some damage control. I blocked her number. Some relationships aren't worth saving, and I don't regret my actions. She created her own downfall, piece by piece, and I just exposed it for all to see. My life has changed. Without the constant strain of my family's demands, I can finally save money, go on vacations, and live the life I want. I've reconnected with relatives I barely knew, and many of them are wonderful people, despite Ella labeling them worthless. We get together now, share stories, laugh, and they treat me with the respect and love that family should. I think about the college fund I once had, the many times it was drained for others. Now, I have a new savings account, and every dollar in it is for me, for my future. No one else has access, and no one even knows it exists, and that feels perfect. When people ask if I miss my family or regret what happened at Christmas night, I tell them the truth. I miss the family I always dreamed of, the one I kept sacrificing for, hoping they'd finally appreciate me. But that family never existed. It was just me, endlessly giving while they took. Well, they can't take from me anymore. I'm done being anyone's ATM or stepping stone. Now I'm surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for what I can give them. And you know what? That's what family was always supposed to feel like. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay stunned.